I am interviewing Chris Cloney of DustEx Research and Grad Blogger. And so I think we can talk about both businesses a little bit, as they both have somewhat of blogs, right?
Yes.
Grad Blogger is just starting out, but DustEx, we've really got a lot of posts up there.
That's right.
So tell me a little bit about both of these. Just give me some background for our viewers.
Sure. So DustEx Research and the actual website and blog for that is dustsafetyscience.com. And the original one was mydustexplosionresearch.com. And they grew out of my academic research. So I just finished my PhD in the area of industrial safety, specifically fire and explosion hazards in industries that generate powdered and dusty materials. And about 2 years before finishing my PhD, I started writing a blog in that area, not really thinking that anyone would really tune in or care. And in first, to be honest, nobody really did. But after kind of several months of writing, I started to find an audience in that area, started writing more, and that kind of grew and allowed me to incorporate as a business, and that to be my sole kind of employment, I guess, after I graduated. So that's DustEx Research. And then Grad Blogger is really sharing my journey with the community of PhDs and master's students at universities to show them that it is possible to grow these kind of businesses based on creating content, based on creating community, putting yourself out there. And that's really just getting started. It's sort of been in the works for a year and a half, but I just started getting the website up now, just started generating content and building that out today.
Yes, fantastic. So what kind of time do you put into these blogs per week or per month? How many hours do you spend regularly?
Sure. So it's evolved over time. When I first started, I was doing my PhD. So I was doing a lot of research there. I'd say I was probably doing 15 to 20 hours a week. And I was sort of doing it as a side hustle, I guess, or a side project. Now for DustEx Research, it's my full-time job. I do it sort of 40 hours a week nominally. Sometimes less if I want to take some time and do it with my family. I'll do kind of vacation and less time. And if it's really busy, I may do more hours, and it's probably 40 plus, a little bit more. Moving forward, my time's going to be split half and half, probably 20 hours a week on Grad Blogger and 20 hours a week on DustEx Research, or maybe a schedule where it's 1 week on one and the next week on the other. But it's, at this point, sort of full-time 9 to 5-ish sort of job.
Ish. I know you are on there in the evenings. So
Well, I'll take time off in the middle of the day and work earlier mornings and later nights. And as Jennifer knows, I just had a child 3 weeks ago, our first baby boy, Owen Cloney. So we haven't figured out what that new schedule looks like. My guess is it's no longer going to be 9 to 5. It may be, I don't know, 1 to 9 or 10 to 4. We'll have to see what schedule Owen allows. So
when your wife goes back to work, are you going to be the stay-at-home dad as well? Or are you...
I think I will be. We still got to figure out what that looks like. But my wife is in medical residency, so she did her medical program at Dalhousie. That's pretty intense. It's pretty intense leading up during the pregnancy, and it'll be pretty intense when she goes back. So one of the nice things about me running my own business is that I can kind of scale. So my aspirations and dreams and where I want to take things, I can scale those up or down over the years, and we'll probably go to a setting where I'm doing at least part-time care for the child during the day, and maybe we'll do a couple hours somewhere, but we haven't really figured that out. But I will be the kind of primary caregiver at that point, I think.
Yeah. So what kind of marketing do you do for Grad Blogger and DustEx, or Dust Safety Science?
Sure. So Grad Blogger is sort of just getting started, so that doesn't have a ton of stuff behind it yet. But for Dust Safety Science and the former blog that's part of that, do a lot of social sharing, but mostly on LinkedIn. So it's kind of a different story than a lot of blogs. Half of my traffic from Dust Safety Science, which is only 5 or 6 months old and gets maybe 2,000 unique, or 1,500, 2,000 unique visitors a month. Half of that comes from LinkedIn. Really building a strong community and sharing on there. I am on other social networks, and I have people that are helping me try to figure out how to use those better. But LinkedIn's a big one for that. So that's kind of the biggest social channel. And then we do newsletters every week. I'm doing that now for at least 2 years. And I do a lot of in-person stuff. So I go speak at conferences and try to get the brand out there that way. A lot of people in the industrial safety space, the young people tend to be more online. They tend to be tuning into newsletters and reading the blog posts and that sort of stuff. But the old people, or I shouldn't say the old people, but people that are less technology advanced, really appreciate seeing people in face. And so I go to a lot of conferences. I do a lot of telephone calls, emails, and direct messaging. And that was really scary at first, especially when you're kind of behind the safety of your computer screen, writing blog posts all day. To actually pick up the phone and call someone, it's a skill that you just need to do and practice. But I probably made my most, the best connections I've made either at these conferences or talking over the phone, that sort of thing. Moving forward, we're putting together a podcast for dust safety science. We will also have a grad blogger podcast, but that will probably be towards the end of 2018. And I may look at some other more newer type avenues like paid advertising and that, but I haven't really gotten into that in either of my businesses yet.
You also do some, well, not technically print, but the possibility of print with your semi-annual safety report.
Yeah, that's a good point. So they're PDFs. So I don't necessarily print and distribute them, but they're sort of treated the same way as a print report. So people will download them, email them to each other. And that's a really great way, especially if you're in a technical industry like I am, because people are used to reports. They're not so used to sharing blog posts, although it's coming along, but they feel more comfortable if they have a PDF document that they can print out. And I'll print those and bring them as sort of marketing material to conferences and leave them on desks, or some of the companies that support us, I'll give copies to them and then they can share it and that sort of thing. So pretty old school, writing a report and printing it out, but it works in these industries where, it's not personal finance or some of these really traditional blogging core streams that are as niche.
Is your blog successful?
Yeah, so I was trying to think of this question a little bit, and it's always a moving target, right? So success is what you want it to be. So if you're happy at the end of the day, then you're going to be successful. And if you're unhappy because you're trying to attain something, then not. But that's not really a satisfying answer. So I'll maybe go in. I do think from any measure that I've ever had of when I started, what it would be, making my first $100, making my first $1,000, making my first $10,000. I never thought any of that was possible. And each step I figured the next step was not going to be possible and the cards would come crashing down. And we're still here today and building out a team, and it's been totally amazing. So for that, I think I would be considered successful. I don't have a full-time job. When I graduated in April, and now this is 6 months later, this is my full-time job. It's providing almost full-time income. It's enough to support me, at least right now. I probably still need a 2x or 3x of business to kind of meet our long-term goals. But the thing that I feel right now that I guess would be the biggest measure of success is, even if this didn't work, which I'm feeling very much like it's going to, I have the confidence now that I think I could do something else and get up and running pretty quick. So all those measures, I would say it's been pretty successful.
Is there someone successful that you follow or you look up to?
Yeah, there is actually. So I call them. So a lot of people talk about getting a mentor or hiring a coach. I've never done that, but I do pull in a lot of virtual mentors. So what I do is I pick my next goal, and then I find somebody who's done that, and then I read everything and listen to every podcast episode and spend hours and hours and hours of time just consuming what they're doing, what they've done. And then when I got to make decisions, I actually just go, well, okay, what would Seth Godin do in this case? Or what would Pat Glynn do in this case? Or whoever I'm kind of targeting at the point. So that's how I use them as a virtual mentor. So the people that I've looked up to using that approach when I first started was Nathan Chan with Founder Magazine. That was when I had left my full-time job. wanted to get in entrepreneurship and didn't really know how to get started, and spent probably a year listening to him. And that didn't really take me down the path of blogging. Didn't take me down a path that I actually built a successful business. It wasn't until I started listening to Pat Flynn and Smart Passive Income, and seeing how I could apply that to my particular niche, which is industrial safety, that started to take off. So those are two big ones. Leslie Samuels, I mentioned Seth Godin. When I launched my DustEx research, my company, reading a couple books and audiobooks by him really taught me that I need to really create a remarkable message and not tone it down. And that was really scary because I launched it at the largest trade show in North America for my industry. And I really wanted to tone that message down, and it was really scary, but I didn't, and it went extremely well. So those are kind of some people that I've followed for those different steps within my journey, I guess.
How do you know that the Pat Flynn's and the Seth Godins, what indicates to you that they are successful themselves?
For me, they all have kind of a common denominator. So it's not that they all do have full-time income from the what they've created. That is
right.
They do seem to, and that's another thing you gotta be careful with this, that you only ever hear the good, right? Even if you're following Grad Blogger, if you're following this interview, I'm trying to tell you as much as I can about the bad stuff, but you mentally repress a lot of the bad stuff anyway. So you get this kind of inflated view of people's personas, that it's so successful and so easy, when in reality there's all this stuff in behind. So that's kind of a cautionary note. But the way that I know that they're successful is that the impact that they've had on me is 100, 1,000, 10,000 fold what I've ever paid them. And I've actually just started taking some courses for some of these people now, but up until 5 months ago, I didn't pay them anything other than maybe an affiliate sale that I bought through their Bluehost link or something, like $60. But the value that they've given me is that they've changed my life, like 100,000, 10,000 times more value than I've taken back from them. And that's how I know that they're successful. And that's the same model that I'm trying to use in my business is this infamous value, whatever that is, hard to measure, hard to quantify, but I know that they've changed my life 1,000-fold what I've actually paid them. So I can't say what the part of value is of that is, but it's that's how I kind of know that they're successful. So they're making those changes in lots of people in the world.
So you talked about that inflated idea. What are one or two of the phrases that drive you crazy that you see online as marketers promise success?
Yeah, I don't know. I might get in trouble for this, but I'll try my best. So the one that kind of drives me up the wall a little bit, and it's not necessarily marketers going outward, but I've seen in communities I'm part of, and we're doing meetings with people as well. It's that some people tend to jump right into, like, I can't do anything if it's not paid. Why would I run a Facebook community if I can't get any kind of monetary benefit out of it? And those sort of things, like, you should start with Facebook ads, you should start with a beta course launch. They're all good if you need to make money like next week, but it's not the only way to do it. You can do a very long-term strategy, and it is long-term, it's months and years, but you don't need to do this kind of hard sales process all the time. So a lot of people will say these things, but not acknowledge that there is another way. If you can afford to do a side hustle for a year or two, if you're a graduate student, which I was, and could take that time, or if you have a full-time job and you're doing it. Not everybody has that, so some people need to get at it fast. But if you have that, there's other ways where you can build a longer-term, more sustainable, in my mind, business model that's built on actually getting to know who your readers are, actually building a community from them. And at the end of the day, they'll want to pay you. Same way that I want to pay, I don't know how I'd pay Seth Godin, but I can pay Pat Flynn by taking a $600 course from him. And I want to do that now because of the difference and change that they've had in my life.
Seth Godin's got an alt MBA. I've had my eye on it actually, but it's $3,500.
Yeah, I'm sort of at the $500 my top at the most, but maybe we'll be to 5,000 by next year. We'll see.
And what is one thing that is not true about success? Like when you see online, you know it's not actually going to happen.
Yeah, I'll give two examples. So the first is this one size fits all, and I think we've danced around a bit in this interview so far. But success is a a moving target, especially if you make it that way. And then I did. I said, I want to make $100 a month. I want to make 200. I want to make 500. I want to make 1,000, whatever. And if you kind of stay in that mindset, you'll never sort of be happy and feel successful. So for me now, success, I think, looks more like me being able to take care of my family while also having time freedom to do things in the way that I want to. So I want to go down to the park on a Tuesday with my son or my cats. Then we can do that.
You take your cats to the park?
No, I don't actually do that. But I like to, every interview I like to bring my cats in at least once.
Oh,
that was
there you go.
Maybe. I mean, that's what success is for me for the next year, probably next year, 2 years, 3 years. And then maybe over a 5-year period, success looks different. Maybe I'm doing more public speaking or whatever it is. That's one thing that's just not true. It's one size fits all. I got to make 10K a month. I got to make 100K a month, whatever it is. I got to make $1 million a month, whatever you set that's an arbitrary target that you can set to make yourself happy or unhappy. Then the second kind of myth is this one that I had to get over at the very start. I mentioned Nathan Chan and the Founder podcast, and that's really good. And being an entrepreneur by building a company and taking funding and reading all Silicon Valley magazines and all that sort of side of entrepreneurship is a viable route, going and working for a startup and that. But it's really hard. Like, it's really nerve-wracking. I tried to think of 3 company ideas. I tried to launch them. I tried to talk to people. But I guess what I want people to kind of take away is that there's another way to get to doing success. And that's, for me, it's blogging. And that's the purpose of Blog Jam. Creating content, creating community, and trying to affect change with your work is a longer term solution, but it's a different way to entrepreneurship. And I didn't really feel comfortable calling myself an entrepreneur for a long time. I do now. I don't know what the change was, but because I didn't have a startup company that I was sort of building the traditional way using some method out of Silicon Valley, I didn't think I was an entrepreneur, and that's just not true. There's other ways to do it to run your own business. So that's one thing that is not really true about success, is sort of startup mindset. It doesn't need to be like that.
And so you kind of answered this, but I'm going to ask you again anyways. What do you wish you knew starting out? So let's think about this. So I think we'll go back to the Seth Godin example, because I think that's the one that's had the most instrumental change in my business. When I launched my actual company, so I went started out to actually make this full time. The thing that I wish I knew, and I found out before I launched it, but was the importance of just of so-called leaping first or shipping. I created content for 2 years exclusively, like tried to ship something every day. And working on that muscle, really, it does have long-term benefits. Like I said, if my business fails right now, I think, well, I know, or I feel like that I can start over from scratch because I have that ship muscle built in now, and I can build something for free and kind of get that out there. So it's really hard to say it's really hard to learn that without doing it, but knowing at the start that this building out this muscle to ship, the importance of actually leaping first and putting yourself out there with a really remarkable story, that's what's going to get you over the long term. This kind of definition of success that I have, where you're building a community and building sustainable relationships. So that's kind of what I wish I had known, and then I sort of learned. And when I launched my business, got me the farthest was just putting yourself out there, picking a remarkable message, and press and go on it.